Reddit.
I was giving away a free couch on Craigslist when I get a text asking, "Can you throw in any other free items to make it worth my time?" I say, "What do you mean? It's a free couch." To which he replies, "I know, but I live about 20 minutes away, kind of a long drive just for a couch." I said, "If you don't want to drive 20 minutes then forget it. I'm giving it away cause I have no other way to get rid of it. If you can't pick it up, don't waste my time." He says, "Don't you know the customer is always right? You're a terrible businessman."
Doesn't customer imply you're buying something?
Sometimes the customer is just a beehole. When I was in high school, my small town school track team went to the state finals. My event was the 200-meter dash. I line up on this beautiful, wide cinder track with maybe 15 lanes. I was used to 8, and an unbelievable crowd watching. Big grandstands full of people, all new to me. I get kind of excited about the whole thing. So we all set our feet in the blocks, crouch down and tense up, waiting for the shot from the starter pistol. Meanwhile, a hush settles over the crowd. We're on edge waiting for the bang. When the starter fires, I take this huge leap forward with more force than ever before. This massive physical effort simultaneously propels the most violent, loudest fart of my life out my preteen stink hole. The crowd is cracking up, but I'm too focused on the wind to let it stop me. Suddenly I realize I am so far ahead of the competition I can't even hear their feet slapping the track. I glance back and see every one of my competitors rolling on the ground laughing their butts off. It was the most embarrassing moment of my life, but at least I was a winner that day. My 27-year-old brother lives with my parents and I am 16. My brother is a quote-unquote nice guy, or rather, an incel. He's constantly ranting about how girls won't go out with him, and how apparently they're all dirty skanks for not liking him. My parents seem to only encourage his behavior. What's worse is he's a gym teacher, so his female students are exposed to his bull. Last night, my brother went on another long rant about the latest girl who managed to resist his nice guy charm. He kept going on about it, and I got annoyed because of it. I told him, maybe if you weren't such an incel loser you wouldn't have so many problems. Surprise, surprise. My brother gets upset about it. My dad tells me to apologize, but I say no cause he treats people like garbage. Things escalate to where my dad, brother and I are all screaming at each other at the dinner table. It ends with me being told to find a friend to stay with for the night, because my parents and brother are so disappointed in me. I'm disappointed in my brother for being so pathetic. Oh well.
Your brother sounds like a complete loser.
Once a kid maced our principal and he cried.
Nice. A cheerleader at our school banged the entire football team, including her twin brother.
Are you from Alabama by any chance? And if so, how can I contact this girl?
I was a dumb teenager and my senior year of high school was rough. One of my friends decided to spread a silly rumor about me trying to hit on her boyfriend. I lost all my other friends from it, so I decided to pull a little harmless hex on her. The goal was to make a giant, cystic pimple right in the middle of her nose. Petty, right? The next day, I found it had worked. There it was, big and red and ugly. I mean, it was a monster. Almost looked like a tumor, bulging out of her butt and nose. There was a lot of hate in my heart at that time. However, something happened and it seems there was a bit of a rebound. That same morning I woke up with a tiny red dot in the middle of my nose. Same place as the one on hers. Only hers went away in a week or so, and mine is still here, 3 years later. That's karma for ya.
You gave yourself cancer. So way back in the day my family lived out in Hickville. One day my dad noticed our mailbox had been ripped out of the ground. He was obviously not pleased. He went to talk with the county sheriff who happened to live a mile down the road. Turns out it had been happening up and down the road for months. Someone was tossing a chain over mailboxes and yanking them out with their vehicle. He suspected a guy down the road with his great big lifted four-wheel drive truck, but couldn't prove anything. This usually happened on Saturday nights with people finding out in the morning. It also seems the nicer the mailbox the bigger a target, and many had been hit multiple times. People had tried digging deeper, using more durable wood, etc. The guy just took it as a challenge and ripped them out again. Dad had enough, so he goes to Lowe's and buys the fanciest, prettiest mailbox they sell. He then proceeds to install it on top of an 8-foot long cylinder of 3 inches diameter hardened tool steel. But he wasn't done there. After digging down with the post hole digger and dropping it in, he then filled it in with quickset concrete. To really sell it, he then used some strips of 1/2 wood to cover the steel core of his now indestructible mailbox, primed and painted them so it looked like a standard 4 inches post, and even had my mom decorate it with flowers and such. He wanted it to be as tempting of a target as possible. Didn't even take a week. I went out for school in the morning and found the mailbox right where it should be. Attached to it was 30 feet of chain and an entire hitch assembly, ripped right off the truck's frame. Sheer bolts. It was marvelous to behold. Sheriff gets called over and dies laughing when he sees it. He went to the house of the guy that was suspected and sure enough verified the damage to his truck matched. Dad was unofficially rewarded by the sheriff's department with a few cases of beer and some venison, and after that every deputy in town would flash him a thumbs up whenever they saw him.
That is awesome. Your dad is a rock star.
He is indeed. It was glorious.
I literally said that is awesome when I finished reading this post.
Here in Brazil we don't have the classic American mailbox, as most of our houses don't have a front yard. Anyway, some months ago a neighbor had his mail stolen from his mailbox several times. He got pissed and tempered it with razor blades inside the front slit. Believe it or not, he was sued by the thief and lost the cause. It's illegal to create traps in Brazil.
I live in a border city, Windsor, Canada, which borders on Detroit. Lots of strip clubs here. We were sitting in a rundown stripper bar in a bad part of town. The girls that night were all from the States. The dressing room was upstairs. You could hear the girls going up and down the stairs as it was an old building. We were waiting for the next girl and could hear her start to walk down the stairs. All of a sudden bump, thump, thump, bang, bang, bang. The bar became completely quiet. After what seemed like forever, the door at the bottom of the stairs opened a crack. In a Detroit accent we heard, "I can't go on." I fell down the stairs. The door slowly closed and the entire bar erupted in laughter. Within 5 minutes the entire bar emptied. The night was done as nothing could top that. One night, my wife's boss from her brand new job invited us over for dinner. On the drive over, my wife said many times how important it was to make a good impression. I arrogantly informed my stupid wife that I always make good impressions. Her boss is a single lady in her 50s, so it was just the three of us. We chit-chatted over drinks and salads, and seemed to really be hitting it off. She laughed at my well-timed, perfectly appropriate jokes and my wife seemed pleased. Soon she brought out the main course, a nice big juicy steak for each of us. As I began to cut into my steak, I realized how undercooked this it was. I've had my fair share of rare steak, but this was several minutes on a hot grill short of rare. I probably could have resuscitated the cow had I tried. Instead, I sat there fidgeting with my knife and fork, worrying about how I was going to get away with not eating this steak. Just then, our hostess excused herself to the kitchen to take care of some dessert preparations. As I looked across the fancy dining room table at the open window of this third-story apartment, a cartoon light bulb appeared over my head. I knew I had to be decisive, realizing that she could return at any moment. I committed. I grabbed the steak with my hand, gently shook off the juice and executed a perfect throw right through the center of the open window. Here's the big time FU: the window wasn't open. It was the cleanest freaking window you've ever seen in your life. That is, until my mostly raw slab of steak slammed up against it and slowly slid down, leaving a trail of bloody juice in its wake. My wife, whose steak was a nice medium rare and was unaware of my predicament, turned, jaw dropped, and stared at me like I was an alien from another planet. My wife's boss heard the thud of the steak on window impact and came quickly. She took in the scene, the steak sitting on the windowsill, the blood trail, my empty plate, and then gave me an inquisitive, puzzled look. I just didn't know what to say. It felt like a minute of silence, but was probably 3 or 4 seconds. Finally, the best I could manage was I'm so sorry, I am such a klutz. I don't know, I was just cutting it, and it slipped. Just ask my wife, I really am a klutz. Right honey, no help coming from that direction. I will clean this up. I can't believe this. I am so sorry, etc., etc. Both women continued to stare at me like I had escaped from the loony bin. As I smeared the blood around the window with my cloth napkin, dusted off the steak, and continued to mutter my incoherent explanation, I knew no one was buying the story. I knew what I had to do. I sheepishly returned to my seat and proceeded to eat every bite of that disgusting, cold, chewy, bloody, raw steak.
Epic fail.